What's up everybody, Yuji here, and today I've got a BFA Ret Paladin PvP guide. And with BFA out, there's kind of like a lot to go over, because, there's a Azurite traits, there's stats mattering, gear mattering, trinkets mattering, all sorts of stuff like that, there's enchants. So pretty much I'm just gonna do some general things that's helpful for every class that you play. For PvP, the big thing is the only thing that matters are off stats. So like haste, mastery, crit, verse, etc. Those are the only things that really matter. Things like agility and strength, they all scale in PvP. I'm pretty sure. I think your stamina kind of matters. I think because it goes up with your eye level. I think. So yeah, pretty much the big thing is secondary stats matter. So that makes gem slots super important because you can just put in, whatever stat you're going for, just a gem for that. You don't need to go for strength or anything like that. Just always go for the secondary stat that you're trying to get the highest. So for me right now, I'm playing the mastery build, so I have mastery gems and mastery enchants and stuff like that. So yeah, that's just what I want to go over first. So Ret has kind of two good stat priorities that you can go. You can either go Mastery-haste or Haste-versatility. I've been going for the Mastery-haste mainly myself, but that's mainly just because I can't go the Haste-versatility since I don't have the gear for it. So right off the bat, I'm going to be talking about that one first since I know about it more and I know more of the options for it. So right off the bat, I'm going to start off with the Azurite traits. So for me, the best Azurite trait in my opinion for the Mastery-haste spec is Avenger's Might. It's just super good on-demand mastery burst that goes with your wings. It gives you 473 for a blue piece and 512 for a epic 340 piece whenever you use your wings. So altogether, you end up getting around 1500 mastery, which ends up being another 30% mastery, which means that your holy power spender, no, wait, is it holy power spenders? I think it's just holy, yeah, all your holy damage is going to be doing, it's not really 30% more, but let's just say that it's 30% more damage, which is kind of huge. Other than this, you could also be playing either Incite the Pack. Incite the Pack makes it so that it procs and gives you a sizable amount of mastery. I don't really know how often it procs, I'd have to look that up, but it's also really good because once it expires, it also gives your teammates a bit of mastery too, not as much as you, but a decent amount. And the other option is Trade Winds. Trade Winds probably gives you the most mastery overall, but it lasts probably the shortest amount of time. It also gives your teammates mastery and more mastery than you would get from Incite the Pack. But I feel like it probably has like a shorter proc chance because I don't see as many people playing this over Incite the Pack, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll probably put something in, I'll probably look this up and put it in the video somewhere to clarify which one what the proc chances for them are. But yeah, I like using the Avenger's Might because it works really well with the spec that I'm currently playing with Ret. Next up, the trinkets and stuff. I don't really know. For trinkets, you kind of can just do whatever you want. The on-use PvP trinket is actually really good with the 1000 main stat. Trinkets like the on-use things, like that type of stuff, those types of things actually work for main stats and stuff in PvP. It's just like when you add to your normal stat base, it doesn't really matter. And I'm also using the big red button just because it's another big burst. It really helps when you're going for the one shot, especially when people aren't stacking. The only problem is when you're playing against something like a BM hunter and you're trying to hit a melee or they're going you and you have all the pets and stuff all over you, it's really not going to really do that much. So if you have the option to try to swap in either another on use or a proc trinket here as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the trinkets. Now I'm going to go into the spec itself. So I am using this spec, Execution Sentence, Hammer of Wrath, Fist of Justice, Wake of Ashes, Eye for an Eye, Word of Glory, Inquisition, and then for honor traits, I am using Hammer of Reckoning, Blessing of Sanctuary, and Jurisdiction. So the big thing is, with the spec, as I said, it's all about burst. So Execution Sentence helps with that a lot. I think it's 15% increased damage while in PvP. If they nerfed it a bit, before BFA came out just for PvP. So pretty much when you have this up, you got a 12-second burst window, and also execution sends it super hard. Like I've hit 30k, actually I think I've hit 40k once before when I had that, plus a lot of other things working for me. Then Hammer of Wrath. Hammer of Wrath is just really good. It's holy damage, so it gets increased by your mastery and your execution sense as well. Also, it's just an extra button that you can press during wings. It does more damage than your Crusader Strike, so you kind of just use it instead of that. Also, being a ranged execute kind of thing can be really helpful in winning games like that. It just makes things a lot smoother in my opinion, and it does decent damage. You can hit up to like 12k at times if you get crits and stuff, but generally it's hitting for like 7 or 8k when you have your wings up. Next up we have the CC tree. This one is pretty much just depending on what comp you're playing. If you're playing something that has CC and you just need something to stun the healer so that they can get it, like Ret Hunter, if it's just best. They kind of nerfed it a bit, so it's a bit slower. It also doesn't work with Divine Purpose procs, so that's kind of the main reason I don't like playing Divine Purpose right now. It just feels really clunky when you get the procs and you're trying to get your Hodge up as fast as possible. It kind of just makes things a bit annoying. Other than that, Repentance can be good if you're playing a comp with not much CC, or if you're playing something like Ret Rogue and or just a melee cleave that doesn't have a CC on that DR. And Blind something is good when you have a comp that has tons of CC and you can just throw that in on top of things, or if you already have a ton of stuns already and you just need something instant and you know that you're not going to really be able to get any casts off while playing it, just play Blind. It's also really good when you're playing Ret Rogue, because you can use their blind, and you can use stun their blind, sap off, and then you can use stun your blind, sap off. It just makes it super smooth. Next up for this tier, pretty much the only option ever is Wakes of Ashes. It's just so good. It does a ton of damage. It's also affected by your holy damage modifiers, like Execution Sins and your Mastery. And it gives you 5 holy power and slows them. It's just really good. It's just makes the whole thing smooth. It's kind of annoying with the cooldown. It just kind of feels really awkward with the cooldown of everything else, because your execution sense is 30 seconds and this is 45 seconds, but you don't really want to use this unless you have this up, because this is what makes this hit super hard. So it just kind of takes some getting used to, but if you can save them for each other, it's really good. I usually kind of just do a go with executions when this isn't up, and then just save this for the second go with execution sentence. Since it's more so that your damage is during your execution sentence goes rather than your Wakes of Ashes goes. So it's good to save this for when you have execution sentence, since this just doesn't seem as good just by its own. Unless you're just kind of trying to, something's low and you're just going for a kill, just go for it. Obviously, it's PvP. Stuff happens that you can't always expect everything. Next up for this tier, you can pretty much go anything. Like if you're not going to get hit at all and you know it, you should probably go Cavalier. If you're playing against if you're playing against Double Caster, you're going to want to go Unbreakable Spirit. The short bubble and the short Shield of Vengeance is huge. And Eye for an Eye is pretty much if they have a melee that's going to hit you at all. It's really good. I feel like the damage from it isn't as much as it was back in Legion, but it still has the 35% physical reduction, so it's really good. If you do it before a stun from a rogue comp, that can be huge. Nerfs their damage. But yeah, that's pretty much this tier. And then tier 90, you're kind of forced to play Word of Glory. Word of Glory is just so strong right now that it's kind of not worth not playing. Selfless Healer could have potential, but it's just a bit slower. Like if you're playing in something that's super bursty and you don't have it up yet, it kind of gets in the way. I mean, it's just not worth using. It also doesn't heal as much as Word of Glory. So, but you can use it. It can also be good if you're playing with something like a Resto Druid and you're just trying to make it so that they don't purge the important things, because it purges each stack individually, I'm pretty sure. So it's, I think back in WoD they changed it so that you could purge the entire thing, all 4 stacks with one purge. I think now you have to purge each stack individually, so that just kind of makes it as a protection for all your HOTS as well. And Shika's Vengeance just doesn't feel worth it. It can be good if you're playing something with like Divine Purpose, or if you're playing with Crusade and you're just trying to unleash your, and just get your ramp up as fast as possible, since you're just 5 Holy Power gone instantly. You could use this plus Wix Fascist, and then bam, you're already done and you're fully ramped. And the healing from it is, I don't know, the only time it would ever be worth is using on someone who's stunned when you have a Divine Purpose proc up. Other than that, it's kind of useless, I'd say. And then last up for the last tier, as I was saying before, Divine Purpose feels a bit clunky with how it doesn't affect your Fist of Justice anymore. So I've been going Inquisition. The haste buff is just so helpful that it just makes things super smooth and easy to play. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The only thing is you just gotta remember to keep it up at all times, and also it's really helpful because a lot of times when you can't connect to anything, you're kind of just in an awkward situation where you want to spend Holy Power so you can get your Hodge up faster, but you have nothing to hit, so you kind of just press Divine Storm just aimlessly, just to spend it. So instead of having to do that, you can just press Inquisition now, and that's just a way to dump your Holy Power when you can't connect to anything. And lastly, for the PvP talents, we have Hammer of Reckoning. It gives you wings for 6 seconds whenever you use it. This goes well with your Hammer of Wrath, and if you're playing Avenging Might as well, it stacks with that, making it so that you get all the big mastery and you get the Hammer of Wrath. The one big thing that I have to say about this is when you're using this spec, I personally recommend using Execution Sense before you use this, because you have so few globals that you can use that I just feel like this is the best burst window. Also, your Hammer of Reckoning is buffed by Execution Sense as well, so that it can do a decent amount of damage. It can hit up to like 16Ks at times if you're lucky. Then after that, Blessing of Sanctuary, you can switch out of that if they don't have something to sank, but pretty much every single team has something that you have to sank. And then last up, Jurisdiction. This can be swapped out with either Lawbringer or Jurisdiction, just depending on what you're playing. If you're playing something where you're going to be closer to the healer and you're going to be able to use it more often, then go Lawbringer. And also if you're playing something that you're going to get kited a lot and you don't really have a slow on your team, you're going to want to play Lawbringer. But Jurisdiction is really good. It makes it so much easier to get your Hodges, especially against things like Resto Shamans and Resto Druids, since they can just run away from you and make it pretty much impossible for you to get them. But that's pretty much it for the Mastery spec. Let me show the setup real quick for it. So pretty much you want to get your 3 Holy Power, you want to get your Inquisition up as fast as possible, and then you want to get to 3 Holy Power, pop your wings, use your on-use, Execution Sense into your Artifact, into Templars, into Judgment, Templars, and then throw in a Hammer of Thing. That's pretty much your rotation. That's pretty much just your big one-shot. If you do it correctly and they don't have buttons up, it can one-shot, obviously, but actually one-shot. Other than that, it's going to force some big cooldowns out when you go like that. And if you're using the Hammer of Reckoning, it's pretty much the same thing, but you're going to want to press Execution Sense beforehand, and then throw in your Hammer of Reckoning, and then do the same pretty much rotation, except, actually it's pretty much, yeah, just the same rotation. If you don't have Judgment up, use your Hammer of Wrath. That's pretty much the only difference. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the Mastery-haste spec. Okay, so now we've got the Haste-versatility spec. This one's probably the easiest to gear up in PvP, since most of them give those type of stats. It's also good to go a bit of crit too sometimes, so you can go some of that, and Mastery is always helpful as well. But you're going to mainly want to be trying to go Haste versatility, prioritizing haste over everything else. For this, so Azerite pieces, you're not really going to be wanting to go like class specific ones. You're mainly going to be wanting to go the ones that are pretty much best in PvE almost, just because you're going to be able to have you're just going to be hitting stuff and you just want to get as much consistent damage out as possible. So the number one choice is Thunderous Blast. It's just good, you know, when it hits hard, I guess. I don't really know what to say about these traits, just, you know, they're good, they do damage. And the other one is Dagger in the Back. The only thing about this one is you gotta be trying to stand behind the target as much as possible so that you get the increased stacks up. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Azurite traits. Those are the two you're pretty much going to want to be going. Your trinkets, you're probably just going to want an on-use and a proc trinket. You use your on-use with your wings, etc. Your proc trinket's just good for your other goes. If it's a short cooldown on-use, you can also use it during one of your executions goes, or if you're also playing Hammer of Reckoning, like for the prior spec, you can use that as well. So the spec, you know, the first option for playing this spec is you can play the exact same spec as the Mastery-haste spec, just the Hammer of Reckoning plus Inquisition plus Hammer of Wrath. It's just really good, you know, big burst windows. You can get more globals off with the haste spec, and it just feels easier to pull off because, you know, you're tankier, especially with all the verse you have. But other than that, you can also play Blade of Wrath and Divine Purpose and just go double slow here instead. It's just, oh, and also, yeah, Blade of Wrath. It's just more consistent. Yeah, it's pretty much it. It's just more consistent damage. You're not really relying on your goes with your Hammer of Reckoning so much, so you don't really have to worry about that as much. You can also go Righteous Verdict, but if you're going Righteous Verdict, you're going to want to go Inquisition. Inquisition just makes things... you can pretty much play, and you can also play the last spec with Inquisition. You can go like this. Inquisition just makes things like easier because of the haste buff, and also the damage buff is nice as well. So... yeah, you know, you got a couple options when you're playing this spec. You can go Righteous Verdict with this. You can go Executions with this. You can also even go Divine Purpose with Righteous Verdict, since the procs also extends the Righteous Verdict. But the only problem is Righteous Verdict is kind of weird because you can't play it when you're playing against things like Frost Mage, because you're not really going to have any uptime. It's just going to be against things like double melees where you can just hit something all game long. And when you're playing it, you're kind of forced to play Law and Order so that you can actually connect to things easily. You could also potentially, instead of Jurisdiction, play Divine Punisher, since it gives you 3 holy power whenever you use Judgment. It just makes it easier to get your Templar's Verdicts off so that you can maintain the damage buff from it. Also, in PvP, it's only a 10% buff rather than a 15% buff. That what it says. They changed this right when BFA came out. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, there's a couple specs you can play. I'll probably list what the combinations are on the screen just to make it easier for you guys. And that's pretty much it for talents, Azurite traits, and things like that. Just like secondary things, you can pretty much, you know, you can pretty much use every Azurite trait. Like for the haste spec, you pretty much can just use any damaging Azurite trait. Like I'm using Tidal Surge a lot because it also gives the slow, which can be pretty helpful at times. And just you pretty much just want to get the single target Azurite traits. You can play the AoE ones if you're playing something like a melee cleave that you don't really have to worry about bringing CC. But if you're playing something CC based like Red Hunter or Mage Ret, you're gonna want to go the single target ones like Thunderous Blast and Dagger in the Back. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So lastly, just the comps that you can play, you know, is the usual stuff. You know, Ret Hunter, it works. Ret DK, it works. All those things work. Ret Hunter is probably your best comp right now. And your second best comp is probably something like Ret Boomy. Just with all the healing you can do and stuff like that, it's super strong. Also, I feel like something like Ret Ellie would be really strong as well, because, you know, once again, lots of healing, and Ellie also has a ton of burst that works well with Ret. You can probably just one-shot something if you get a big Earthshock off during your go. that could potentially be super strong. But yeah, pretty much Ret feels like it can play with anything like it could in Legion. You should probably just gotta figure out which spec is best to play for each comp. And yeah, that's it. It probably wasn't really super helpful, but you know, best specs: Mastery-haste and Haste-versatility. Haste-versatility is probably the best. It's the most versatile. You know, you can go the big wing spec, or you can just go the consistent damage spec. And you know, that's about it. I hope this helped you guys at all. Peace.